Okay, so let's just run back through this one more time. We're just talking about sigils here, and we're talking about the use of sigils in corporations and how this magic works. And it's one of the most obscure magic levels of magic in occultism because it's also the most protected. And the reason is because the controllers of the reality don't want their airwaves clogged up with sigils everywhere because people figure out how to use them. And most professional logos that we see on companies are in fact sigils. And the process is that first the corp, which is the dead body, is formed, and then it must become an entity. So life has to be breathed into it, and that's the part of the process of the paperwork, and those are the legal terms. Then this company, which means a group of spirits, is formed. And generally, these are not only the spirits working on other realms, but also the spirits of the people that are working inside the building. And that's the body. So then from there, there's the back end. So whoever is understanding all this kind of magic and what they're doing, what they do is the first thing they do is they cast and they craft and cast a three-dimensional logo that is to represent the company, and that is the master seal. The first one that's made is called the master seal, and the master seal is made of all of the objects that they want the entity to resonate. So gold does certain things, certain leaves from trees do certain things. It's a resonance process. And what resonance is on this level is anything that contains the same elements or chemicals or even shapes, geometric shapes of the another thing. There is a magnetic link between those things. No matter how weak it may be, that magnetic link, which decreases through distance, still functions as a pipe or a tunnel which connects those two things. So it's like a line between, a visible line between two magnetic objects. For someone who is extremely sensitive, they can see all of those lines. They can see all the connections between everything. That happens sometimes in people's consciousness, even they start seeing the connections between everything through the different eye. So going further, what we figure out is that then this two-dimensional seal, and this is what I have to write about now, is then surrounded by the things that resonate. So there's like reinforcement of the things that resonate what is to be done in this company. So actually they build it out even almost like a body in itself, putting things that should resonate with the head of the company at the head or towards the top. I mean, there could be hair from some of the employees, anything that contains the resonance of what they want to achieve within the company. This is sorcery. So what happens is then when this object is formed and casted, also rituals are done around it to reinforce because what's happening is that you could see it like a baby. It's a golem. And then it has to constantly be trained. This is what the energy is supposed to be. This is how the energy works, the finer details, because just because you put some roses and some chicken beaks and things that resonate different kind of energies around something, that something is still a baby. So it has to be constantly reinforced with those intentions in the most intelligent way in order for it to fully carry out its purpose. And this is why the old companies that have lasted long, they're like full grown. That's what's called a giants. The giants are generally skyscrapers more so than they are human beings now. And it's because when the soul chooses to come into physicality, it first chooses the most densest form. Those are stones and crystals. That's why crystals contain so much power, is because that's when the soul is in its densest form. And then what it does is it takes on the characteristics of the geometry that is of the object that it's embedded itself into. So it doesn't know anything greater or any less. It just experiences itself as that. And then as it makes its transition into other life forms that carry different geometry, it experiences itself as that. And at no point is the soul really going back to and saying, hey, this is the experience that I would rather have and this is the experience that I want. until it reaches a certain level of sentience, which is where instinct cuts off and actual intentions, a person's intentions start to guide them more so than their instinct, right? Notice all those are ins, right? Instinct, intention. So this last phase of the sigil magic is when we see these objects everywhere, we get embedded with what the sorcerers are doing behind the scenes with those objects. And that's how it works.
Wow.
And then, okay, the last thing was, I think, actually I went through all the legal terminology. So I guess to recap, so you're dealing with seals. And remember we talked about, so the seal has to be broken. But the master seal is somewhere. And it's generally fortified with protection and all these different things that those who are practicing the rituals are endowing it with so that it stays strong. So when corporations compete, the small corporation will fall when one of these larger entities come in and try to absorb it. They'll either absorb it, hey, we're going to buy you out, or now we're competitioning with each other, and then now there's a war. And this is how this stuff is taking place. And so the more people that this entity has inside of it, the stronger it becomes. And this is like simply seen on the physical plane as when you have, let's say the United States has all these different people as citizens, right? And then when they go to war, they have the people, and they have the technology, they have the metals, they have the gases. Now the other thing is that, and here's another deep secret. See, in our spectrum, we read light and color, but there's actually elements that don't have a light or a color to them. And they call them, I think, inert gases. And these are the ones on the periodic table that they know exist, but they can't actually isolate them in most cases. And when they do, they're very volatile. They can cause extreme explosions, even just small amounts of them. And these elements I know to be basically the most powerful. Okay? So when they build a weapon with that kind of stuff inside of it, they have now come into kind of like an agreement with that. They created a resonance, because even to contain it, there has to be some kind of resonance. It has to be attracted. Then it has to be contained, and to contain something volatile, it has to be put into something that it either feels is its habitat or is able to contain the pressure of it until it explodes or until they want it to explode. So what I'm doing is I'm reverse engineering the elements of the wonder weapons. Because when you understand then the seals, you say, oh, okay, so what's going on is they're mixing the elements of different things to create something that embodies the essence of what those things are. And the craft is so deep that, even to the shape on the tip of the weapon, to the size of the screws in the centrifuge, all that has to be perfect, because you're still making one giant sigil mandala that is embodying some kind of aspect of something that you wish to carry out, that you're going to have to keep reinforcing, because the elements that you're using, if it's going to defeat someone else's same configuration of something like this, has to be more volatile. So this is actually what sorcery is. It's the mastery over elements that are wild and volatile and can kill millions of people. You see what I mean?